Welcome back to this edition, the post-game edition of Silver and Black today, an Odyssey Sports original podcast. Also heard on the radio in Las Vegas, 101.5 KDON and 840 KXNT. Back with you, Scott Gulbransen, my good friend, my buddy, brother from another mother. That is Murf from Raiders Fan Radio, here to talk about the Raiders lose to the Jacksonville Jaguars at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas in overtime, 30-29. Of course, the Raiders get that touchdown, go for two. Can't convert and lose. And a tough one. Another heartbreak for Raider Nation out there. Finding another way to lose, I guess. Geno Smith, who didn't have a terrible game. I know people aren't going to be happy talking about Geno Smith, but not a terrible game. Not a great game. Not a Joe Flacco. Yes, I said that. Not a Joe Flacco game. But a good game nonetheless. And it ends, unfortunately, him throwing the ball into the defensive lineman's outstretched arms and unable to do it. I should say, Murph, before I get your comments here, I should say this was the Jacksonville Jaguars 30, Brock Bowers 29. I mean, there were other people involved, of course, but Brock Bowers, as I said all night long, he is, without a doubt, no question. If you're wondering who the real Superman is, it's Brock Bowers. You don't need to know Clark Kent. You just need to know Brock Bowers because he had an amazing night. But the Raiders now, of course, winless at home. They fall to 2-6 on the season. Murph, I just want to get your, as we do every show, every post-game show, get your initial reaction. By the way, we will have a few viewer drop-ins. So I'm going to post the link here in a bit on YouTube. So if you want to come in as a video guest with me and Murph, you can do that. So stay tuned for that. But Murph, lay it on me, man. Tell me how you're feeling. Give a voice to Raider Nation tonight.
Well, Scott, after falling to 2-5, it already kind of felt like this thing was out of hand. We weren't going to make the playoffs. Everyone's talking draft already. We're watching all the quarterbacks on Saturday to see, who's going to be the high prospects and because maybe we might draft a first-round quarterback. But every time the Raiders come on, though, and you see the silver and black, and especially when you see them in a home game and, you see them playing across that shield, it's like, you want to see them win. Like, I will never not want to see the Raiders win a football game, despite the, lackluster performances and the expectations on the season. And so this game, I think, was, frankly, it's kind of sad because it's like this, I feel like was since the first game against the Patriots, this is the most dynamic Raider team we have seen. And I hate that it all seemingly offensively rides on one guy's shoulders in Brock Bowers, because when he's on the field, this looks like a completely different football team, or at least on the field, healthy, I should say. And so, for as good as the team looked on offense, also defensively, I dared ask the question a week or so ago, and I caught a lot of shit from a lot of people when I asked the question, is Max Crosby a game changer? Because I see Nick Pitino, I see Myles Garrett, I see Micah Parsons, I see these, TJ Watt, I see these guys getting the same treatment and not the same level of impact. Today, Max just shut me up. Like, yes, today he was an absolute game changer. Ashton Genty was an absolute, stud in this offense. Like, you look at the performances that the Raiders needed to have today, including our much maligned quarterback, Geno Smith. We needed him to have a good game today. And although there was an interception and there was the batted down pass and there was those things. Statistically, he put up baller numbers today. Like, he put up big numbers. And granted, you could thank a lot of those first two guys that I mentioned for a lot of those numbers, but still, point stands is that they needed everything that happened today to win and then still lose. So I'm curious, is this the kind of a game that's gonna, break the team? Here we are headed into the trade deadline. Like, if is your spirit? I mean, they're still professionals. They're still going to put down good film. They're still going to give effort. I'm not saying the team's going to quit or anything like that. So don't hear what I'm not saying, Raider Nation. But I'm curious. Like, you literally laid everything out there. We even saw Adam Butler flying around late in the game and all that stuff. And here we go, another loss at home. And now we fall to 2-6 on the year. It's like, man, I can't imagine that there's not a disheartened spirit around those guys, and because they're still human. I mean, they're professionals, yes, but, they're still human. Well, anyways, that's my take on it.
That's the one thing I'll say, though. I know the result sucks for fans out there, but I saw more spirit. Did I see good play on every level? No. Was there still issues with special teams? Yes, we saw that several times. I go to the time of possession. The Raiders and Jacksonville both had 26 first downs in this game. The Raiders had 60 offensive plays, double what they had last game against the Chiefs. So progress there. But the time of possession, 42-57 for Jacksonville, just 26-47 for the Raiders. So when the Raiders did have the ball, yeah, they were efficient. But I think the defense, as you saw, look, the defense has got a lot of problems. The defense, I think everyone is seeing now, there's a serious lack of talent there. They need to invest in that defense, I think, more than people thought they might. And just as you said, Max Crosby, I had people complaining to me on X tonight that Max Crosby doesn't make plays. I saw him make plenty of plays tonight. So I'm not going to say that. I think Max Crosby, like you said, Murph, showed out, did what he needed to do tonight. But when your defense is out there for 77 plays, for 43 minutes, it's tough to do that. And I think you saw that. They gave up 17 points in the fourth quarter. And then, of course, the 7 in overtime as well, because I think they were gassed. They don't have depth. And when you don't have depth, you go late in a game like that, playing that many snaps, it's going to catch up with you. And I think it did for the Raiders, especially in that fourth quarter. On the other side of it, everybody's favorite topic, Geno Smith. Geno Smith, 29-39, 284 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception, a passer rating of almost 118 on that one. If you just looked at the numbers, you'd say, okay, yeah, the 1 interception, not terrible. But the 1 interception, as I was reminded by somebody in the chat here on the show, that turned into 3 points and the Raiders lost by 1. So you get back to quarterback play. You get back to the fact that you can't give points away, and turnovers, even if it's just 1, can come back to haunt you, right? So in this case, I think, look, the Raiders, I wanted to see some progress. Did we see progress? Yes. I think in some areas you did. Part of that was you had everybody back. Brock Bowers, as I mentioned, he is Superman. Brock Bowers is a game changer. Ashton Genty's a game changer. But they could not do what Pete Carroll wants to do, Murph, what he's staked his whole career on, and that was long, sustained drives, because they couldn't run the ball effectively. As good as Ashton Genty was coming out on those swing routes finally, and running the ball, and a few times they could not establish the run long enough or sustained enough to really make a difference.
Absolutely. And to your point, going back to your comments about Max, I think what you said in there about, Max did have a big game today, but then he can't do it alone. And that's the thing that, like, he makes a crucial sack in the fourth quarter, puts the Jaguars in 3rd and long. And then what happens? We freaking give up another deep pass and another long 3rd down. How many 3rd and longs has this team given up over the years? And they're just plagued by the context of the mistakes. And that's where I say all the time that stats can tell you one thing, but when did those things happen? And then, so to go back to your point on the offensive side of the ball, It's like there was, a handful of glaring mistakes, but when did they happen? Well, they literally happened, one of them when the game was on the line, and then others were happening in crucial situations that led to points by the other team. So I'm with you, Scott. I mean, those things are huge when we look at the offensive line. Saw some good offensive line play today until we didn't. And, And freaking, there's the eternal question out there is why is Alex Kappa even on this freaking football team? I mean, that clearly is just going to gain momentum as we go forward. Same thing with Stone Forsythe. I mean, there's just, there's a lot of lackluster performances out there. And then, oh yeah, by the way, the JPJ was maybe our standout lineman today. And oh yeah, he's the guy that everybody's speculating is going to get traded. Like, it's just, this team is so utterly confusing, Scott. We heard Chip Kelly come out this week. So here's to your point about the long sustained drives. Talked about this week that they needed to run the football. They needed to run the football. Well, they run the football, and then with the guy that's averaging 5.1 yards a carry, and then all of a sudden they go pass.
Right,
like, well,
right.
What are we doing? What are we doing,
Yes.
Chip Kelly? And it's like, and then it was like finally, late in the second quarter, early in the third quarter, he starts getting Ashton Genty in space. They start tossing it out to him. They start doing toss plays. Heck, they even got Brock Bowers on a freaking jet sweep, for crying out loud, to get these guys in space and allow them to make a play. And it's like, why is it taking this long? Like, this is the stuff that we've been commenting on since week 2. And here we are all this time later, Scott. What's taking so long?
Yeah, and Murph, listen, Ashton Genty has to have at least 20 carries, not touches, carries. He had 13 today, 42 yards, right? And then, of course, he did have the 5 receptions for 47 yards. He had more yards in the passing game than he did rushing. And so you're right. Kelly talked about that in his press conference. They need to establish a run. At times they did, but you're right. They go away from it. That's still suspect. And Corey Sanford, shout out to him, our viewer out there, who mentioned the missed extra point, and the Raiders did lose by 1.2. So I mentioned the interception for 3 points. So there's really 4 points you left off the board, and the Raiders may win. So yes, but you know what I've found, and I know this is hard to hear, Murph, so brace yourself. Bad teams do that stuff, right? They tend to miss extra points. They have turnovers that become points for them. And special teams, again, was another call out. I'll tell you what, in overtime, they get the big return, which set up Jacksonville for that touchdown. Now, the Raiders defense tightened up there at the goal line as much as they could. They did pretty well there until the last play when Lawrence took it over. But special teams, so again, you can't get a game for the Raiders where all 3 levels of play, defense, offense, and special teams all pull their weight. If they all pulled their weight tonight, then the Raiders win this game. The Raiders should have won this game. Trevor Lawrence did not look good till late in the game when the Raiders defense was gassed. So I understand what you're saying there. And I think that this whole team, the coaching staff, it befuddles me that after a week off, you say you're going to do something, you come out and you kind of do some of it. And we kind of saw some improvement in some areas, but then you kind of reverted back to your confusing ways where you don't call offenses consistently. You don't commit to what you say you're going to commit to. And then on defense, yeah, they got gas, but also Patrick Graham, at times you're wondering what's going on. I also think that the defensive backs on this team are not good. We saw a lot of people who wanted Darian Porter in there. Darian Porter did not play well tonight. He just did not play that well. So you're seeing, I think, a big call out to the fact that this is going to identify, this is what you play young players for too, as well, for all those of you who wanted it, is you're going to see what your deficiencies are.
Yeah, and you know what, and it's almost, I don't want to say acceptable because we want to see everybody play well. But if you see a young guy make a mistake, it's like, okay, like you can understand it at least to a certain extent because they're young, because they're still trying to figure it out. Here I was just complimenting Adam Butler a minute ago, but when you see a guy like Adam Butler bump into Travis Etienne to try to knock him down, and literally to the replay, Schlereth is laughing at it. That, like, you can't do that. It's the NFL. You can't just bump into a guy and expect him to go down all the time. I don't care how big you are, Adam Butler. Where's the freaking art? Where's the reps? Like, these are like things that go back to like playing high school football, man. Like, you wrap up, you take the guy to the ground. Like, this is not hard. And so when you see, veterans making those similar mistakes, what the rookies or the young players would be, but the rookies don't have an opportunity to do that because both the defensive tackles that we drafted were on the freaking inactive list. Somebody explain that to me. Like, here we go. Like, I thought we were going to have a youth movement, and all of a sudden, those two guys and Dante Thornton, everybody are like on the freaking inactive again. So the draft continues to make zero sense to any of us. But anyways, I digress. But we see a lot of that, Scott. Even, I mentioned Adam Butler, but a lot of that in the secondary. And even a lot of that, frankly, at the second level with the linebackers. Right. The linebackers, like E-Rob and Devin White, and those guys, they're flashing around, man. Like, those guys are moving around the ball, and we see a lot of good tackling. And then we see a lot of just awful overshoots, watching runners go by him and no effort to make a play on the ball carrier. Isaiah Paul-Amau, like, he has these like amazing plays and then disappears entirely from the physicality side of the defense. And so, Scott, I'm with you, man. It's like, these are the things about this Raider team. It's like, I can't make sense out of any of it. I can't make sense out of the effort and energy from some of the guys. I can't make sense out of it schematically. I can't make sense out of the freaking communications. I can't make sense out of the draft. It's like, I can't make sense out of any of it. It's like we're just, freaking fluttering in the freaking breeze on everything. And that's a hard thing to get behind as a fan.
Right. And it's hard when you look at John Spytek as a first-year GM and the moves he made, especially when it comes to the draft, as you just mentioned, not understanding why these guys are inactive every week, not given a chance. Tonight, Porter, like I said, he didn't play particularly well. Did he play better than Caillou Blue-Kelly? Yeah. Okay, but that's not a hard bar to get over, by the way. Caillou Blue-Kelly is one of the worst defensive backs in the league, frankly, up until that point. So I see that point, but in some ways, I really believe, and we talked about this last week or 2 weeks ago after the game, which is my gut tells me that if John Spytek was 100% honest with Raider Nation, which he should be, he would say this was a transition rebuilding year. We're going to see what we got. We're going to go with what we got. And then we're going to completely retool as we move along, because there's just no depth anywhere. You're taking chances on some young guys in their first year, but they're not standout stars. These are guys who are third, fourth, fifth round draft picks. They're not going to be guys. Now, are there other guys, especially offensive line? We talked about that. Even people like Tonka Hemingway, these guys who don't get snaps at all or are not even active except for 2 games. Yeah, I'd like to see what those guys can do. Now, another couple losses, which are coming, frankly, because the Raiders' schedule just gets more difficult, is we'll see then if it happens. And John Spytek doesn't want to speak to the media or speak to the fans like most GMs do, usually at the bye week or somewhere around there. So we'll see what happens there. What we're going to do now is take a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation here on the Raiders. Of course, 30-29 losers to the Jacksonville Jaguars in overtime. You're with Murf and Scott. Don't go anywhere, I should say. We're coming back after we pay a couple bills. Hold on. All right, Raider Nation, now's the time I tell you about our good friends at Sleeper Picks. Of course, Sleeper Picks bringing you the video here from Silver and Black today all day long. But we're going to get right into the picks. If you don't have the Sleeper Picks app, what are you doing? We've been telling you all season, go get it now. Play daily fantasy football with Mo and I. I'm going to give you picks for tomorrow's game. That's right, Monday night game between the Cardinals and the Cowboys. By the way, if you go deposit now up to $100, guess what? Sleeper Picks will match it for $100. All you have to use is the code GENTY. That's the code GENTY, only from your friends here at Silver and Black today. All right, here's where we're going to go. Javonte Williams with the Cowboys tomorrow. I like this. I'm going into his receiving yards. No, excuse me, his rushing yards right here, 64.5. Anytime touchdown. I like both of them. They have him at 2+ anytime touchdowns as the big pick for this one, but I'm going to go over 64.5 yards for my man Javonte Williams there. I'll scroll down here so you can see that. You got to have 2 to move along here with Sleeper Picks. Next, on the Cowboys, I really like what I've seen out of George Pickens. He has taken over. CeeDee Lamb, of course, was out injured for a bit, but George Pickens has been the go-to guy for Dak Prescott in Dallas. 40+ receiving yards. I think that's a no-brainer. Now I'm going to go back out and pick from the Cardinals side. A guy I really like, Marvin Harrison, just in the wrong situation. Don't like what I have there. Trey McBride, the tight end, though, has come on really strongly. I like him for a anytime touchdown with this Cardinals team. They're going to struggle a little bit despite Dallas's defensive outings this year. They're going to, I think, get down there in the red zone, and Trey McBride is the guy to do that. So if you look at my sleeper picks selections for Monday Night Football, Javonte Williams, 64.5 yards. Yes. George Pickens, 40-plus receiving yards, and Trey McBride of the Cardinals will get a touchdown. Don't forget, go to Sleeper Picks, the best place to play daily fantasy football. You deposit up to $100, and guess what? They're going to match it. Free $100 to play daily fantasy football, only from your friends here at Silver and Black Today and Sleeper Picks. Use the code GENTY. That's the code GENTY. Rules and regulations apply. Check them out on the Sleeper app or on the Sleeper website. And it might not be available in all states, but most likely in yours. Check out Sleeper Picks now. Come on, get with me. Let's go. All right, welcome back to the live post-game show from Silver and Black Today, an Odyssey Sports Original Podcast. I'm Scott Gulbransen, joined by Murf from Raiders Fan Radio. We're talking about the Raiders' loss in overtime to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Let's spend some of that time, Murf. Let's stay a little bit positive here. On Brock Bowers, okay? 12 receptions, 127 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 rush for 6 yards, by the way, on that sweep you were talking about. Let me tell you, this guy is going to be so much fun to watch. Yes, it's a shame right now he doesn't have a quarterback who can deal to him the way it is, but Geno Smith did it well enough tonight because of his presence. But this guy, and I mean, yes, you're getting it from everywhere across the country because talent like this is undeniable. There's no question. We talked about Max Crosby on the defensive side. On the offensive side, I think Ashton Genty is going to be a great guy too. But Brock Bowers, this is a generational tight end here.
Oh, absolutely, Scott. I couldn't agree more. And I mean, that's been as much as I want the Raiders to draft a first-round quarterback, and arguably, Tom Telesco lost his job because he didn't make an aggressive move for a quarterback in the first round. Mm-hmm. He got us Brock Bowers, and this guy, I mean, I'm not going to speak it over him because it's so early in his career, but I mean, he's a Hall of Fame type player already. Yeah, should he keep up this momentum, and odds are his game is only going to get better. So to be as dominant as he is this early in his career is pretty freaking impressive, man. And and it just goes he goes on the list of a long productive position for this Raiders team. We've had some we've literally had Hall of Fame tight ends, and the ones that weren't in the Hall of Fame, Raymond Chester and Todd Christensen and these. I mean, we've had amazing players, even Darren Waller at his peak. If you think about that, like he was incredible. Zach Miller at his peak was incredible. And so here we have Brock Bowers, but I think that his career is going to prove to be a lot longer lasting than those other guys that I mentioned, aside from maybe a Dave Casper or a Todd Christensen. And so, yeah, it's really cool, man. I love when you can really tell, like, that's when you see like the level of talent in the NFL. Like, that's when you can tell that a superstar is on the field, when it's like, despite the best efforts of the defense, and despite the best efforts or not efforts or lack thereof at times of said quarterback, right? Because we've had such questionable quarterback play, despite the freaking questions on the offensive line and whatever, you still have this guy that stands out and puts out dominant performances like he did today. Because without Brock Bowers, we put up over 20 points, for the first time all year long, right? And so, without Brock Bowers, we don't even sniff that. We don't even come close. You know what I mean? So to have him come out and do that, it just demonstrates his level of ability and level of talent. And I want to address one real quick thing too. And I'm glad you asked about being positive, because Mud Tide in there in the chat says week after week, Murph just comes on here and jumps on the show and is just a crybaby week after week. And I'm like, dude, like, what do you want me to do? Like, our team is 2-6. Like, what do you want me to do? You want me to come here and tell you that everything's going to be good? You want me to just try to put lipsticks on the pig? You know what I mean? Like, this is an ugly Raiders season that none of us expected coming, because of all the adults in the room and all the responsible decision making and all the whatever things that the Raiders strove for in the offseason. All those things were supposed to lead to success. And while a lot of us didn't expect them to freaking be world beaters this year, we expected them to be drastically improved, and they're not. So what do you want me to do? Like, so it's not I'm not coming on here and whining about it. I'm just telling you what I see as a fan. I even had somebody tell me this in the past week or so. They're like, oh, you always have a loser mentality. I'm like, yeah, because the Raiders are losers. Don't get mad at me. Get mad at them. Get mad at your football team that can't put more numbers in the left column than they do in the right column. I'm just a fan over here calling the shit out because it bugs me and it makes me sad because I want to see them win and do well. So like, don't shoot the messenger here. But anyways, but when you see players like Brock Bowers, Scott, it kind of leads us to some positivity. It leads us to in a direction where then I think that's why we latch on to guys like him, guys like Ashton Genty, guys like JPJ, guys like Max Crosby. When you see these like glimmering spots in the freaking darkness of the Raiders' performances over the past 23 years, then, you know, it gives you at least a little bit of hope. Now, we'll see where that goes. But I sure would like to get Brock Bowers paired up with a first-round quarterback, Scott. Wouldn't you love to see that?
That would be nice. But I think it goes back. People are going to have all kinds of opinions, and you're right. Somebody's going to love what you say and hate what you say. There's never really too much in between. Having done this, it doesn't for a long time now. It doesn't really bother me as well because, hey, you could take it or leave it. If you're here and you're listening to the show, watching the show, and you don't like the opinion, you can always turn it off. Like, hey, that's okay. I got plenty of other people who would like to engage here, and that's totally fine. And I don't think. Listen, I said all along that this Raider team wasn't deep. Right. That's why Mo and I picked the win total, and we were wildly wrong about that too. So maybe we were being a little too optimistic. I don't know. But at the same time, you know, you don't do a show on a team and get on there and say, hey guys, it's going to suck. You're going to win one game. Hey, come back next week and listen to the show.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I'm not saying I'm dishonest about what I think about the Raiders, but you know, no one thought that they would be this bad. You expected Geno Smith to do better. You expected some other things to happen. Those that we had on the show, like Raider Rube, one of our good buddies here on the show, you know, he didn't agree with how we talked about some of the stuff, but he thought it was a rebuild from the very get-go. So he wasn't expecting anything. So everybody's in different positions, and that's cool, but we also want to hear everybody's point of view. And, you know, there can always be some people who want to take issue with what you say or what I say or what Mo says or whatever, and that's fine. I don't really care. Then there's also the people who just want to come in and create discord, and that's what they do. And says more about them than anybody else. So that's the way it goes. But anyway, we move on and we talk about this Raider team tonight and what they did and some of the things that I saw better, which was the offensive line had moments, I thought, Murph, where they played well, they played together. Yeah, Forsythe continues to perplex me. I don't know why he's out there. Had a big penalty once or twice, actually, and then towards the end of the game there, a couple times he got beat badly on a sack. And so again, it is what it is, and again, it's indicative of Pete Carroll's decision-making process, Chip Kelly's decision-making process, what they're trying to do. I don't know. After a bye week, nothing has changed there. So I think that's what you're in for. To complain about it, to ask them to fire Pete Carroll halfway through the season, it isn't going to happen. So if that's what you want them to do, fine. You're going to have to wait till after the season at the very least. And if not, maybe he's back another year. I don't know. It's too early to tell. But you're seeing this team, I think, struggle because of the decision-making. I thought the team came out, too, with a lack of discipline again. We saw the penalties at the get-go. We saw the breakdowns in special teams. So nothing has changed that much. There was progress here and there, but it's not enough to stem the tide, to turn the tide the other way. And I think that as a Raider fan, you should be angry, yes, because you want your team to do well. At the same time, you can call it what you want, but you have to start looking at things that you can be excited about in the future. Obviously, Brock Bowers is one of them. Ashton Genty is one of them. Who else is out there giving it all and saying, hey, this guy's doing something? Now, I do think, back to what you guys talked about on your show as well, I do think we got to see these younger players. Now you're 2-6. There's no reason to wait anymore. And these guys that you signed to 1-year contracts, free agents, forget it. They don't matter because they're going to be gone next year anyway. So to me, it's got to be a youth movement. Take your lumps, give them experience, even if they get burned. Don't put them on the inactive list as punishment, because that's what I think Pete Carroll does. We saw that with Dante Thornton. Dante Thornton hasn't played well, to be honest. But did he deserve to be inactive? I don't think so. So it's hard to tell, man. It's really frustrating to watch this coaching staff operate because I do think that they're very personal about it. They're very vindictive. We've heard all the stories. And so now I just want to see these young guys play, see what the Raiders do have so that when you get ready for free agency, because the Raiders are going to have $125 million, whatever it is, in space to go get not only rookies, but then go get free agents. I want to see these young guys play and see what players will be part of the Raiders' future.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's got to be a commitment to what we have, and finally a youth movement. I mean, we heard that this week, but then we didn't really see it, especially when you, as you mentioned, you deactivate Dante Thornton and you put Tyler Lockett in there, who's been with the team for 3 days, and so yeah, it's far past time, and I think it's frankly, is it coaching malpractice if you don't? Like if you don't see what you have in JP and you don't have it in see what you have in Tonka Hemingway, and you don't see what you have in Charles Grant or Caleb Rogers, and like if you don't see what you have in these guys, then again goes back to the confusion of the draft. And why did you draft these players to begin with? Because the season's over. I mean, listen, we're not going to make the playoffs at this point, and I understand coaches coach to win, players play to win, and you're never going to go out there with the intention of tanking. I mean, it's such a ridiculous concept that a lot of fans throw out there. They're like, oh, we just need to tank and get our quarterback. No, it's not ever going to happen. But what you can do is use this time as an evaluation, as sad as that is, that you would have to use the back half of an NFL season as an evaluation period. That's what you've got. So it's at this point, I think it's important for the Raiders to acknowledge that and then do what's best for the team moving forward, which is finding out if you've got building blocks that maybe have not been unearthed yet in these players that have gotten very, very little playing time and zero exposure when it comes to the field.
Right. And I think this is the time where you have to have, and I'm not convinced. I was convinced that the John Spytek, Pete Carroll thing was John Spytek's in control. Pete Carroll's there. And yes, he's going to have more sway because of who he is, but John Spytek's the man in charge. I'm not sure of that anymore. I'm really not. I'm doubting it because at this point in the season, especially after this loss at home, again, the Raiders have not won at home. The Raiders at this point need to develop players, as you mentioned. So John Spytek needs to say to Pete Carroll, Pete, you got to play these guys. Right. So I agree with the GM staying out of the coaching job. Don't tell the coach who to play. And he doesn't have to tell him to play, but you got to have these guys active and get them some rotations, because I got to get ready. You guys are done for this year. You're 2-6. You're not going anywhere. So I need to see what spots need to be filled next year. I need to inform my draft. I need to inform my free agent class. So I need to see these guys play, and I can't decide whether or not they're keepers or you jettison them unless I actually see them play. And so that has to happen, Murph. If it doesn't happen, then you go into another offseason with absolutely no idea what you got.
Yeah, and I have a question for you, Scott, on this, and this has been something that's been talked about a lot here over the past couple of weeks amongst the Raiders fans, social media, and that is the power structure or seemingly lack thereof. I thought this was going to be, and granted we hired the head coach first and then brought in John Spytek, but I thought we were going to see a traditional power structure here where we had GM, head coach, GM's one calling the shots on the roster. Pete said it in the press conference early on that this was going to be a unified decision making and that this was going to be collective decisions and whatever. But I don't think that's the case, because we've seen Pete's ego already get the better of him in this young season. And I think that it's happened with the front office as well. There seems to be a lack of meshing now between him and Patrick Graham and the way that they both decide to scheme offense and defense. There's a lack of connectivity when we look at the way the offense is being run versus the way that John Spytek drafted. So I ask you this question, because you mentioned about somebody coming in and demanding or at least, giving the mandate to this is going to be the move going forward. Does John Spytek have that level of juice? He should. But does he have that? Is that Tom Brady? And if it is Tom Brady, then can Tom Brady be a good leader from a distance with his Fox gig? Is that a mistake? There's so many things then about the front office where us fans are looking at it and going, again, we don't know what's going on. None of it makes sense because there's not a clear-cut standard that was in place for so many years with the Raiders.
Right, and that's where I've been advocating for a couple of years now that the Raiders should have, that Mark Davis needs to get out of the decision-making process, have a president of football operations, somebody like that. That's the person who hires the GM, oversees the science, all that kind of stuff, that position. And you see this in other successful organizations in football, by the way. And so to me, that's what needs to be done because the decision-making process hasn't been great. So now you have Spytek and Pete Carroll, which is really just a relationship of convenience, but that's not conviction. That's not a plan. And to me, that's why this Raider team's in trouble because we still don't understand what the vision is. Murph, remember when we talked about that a couple weeks ago? What's the vision? The GM has not come out. He's been so silent saying, and listen, GMs don't have to do press conferences all the time like coaches do. I'm not saying that. But usually in years past, even with some of the crappy administrations that you've had there with the Raiders, you've seen them come out during the bye week or at the midpoint. We're now at the midpoint of the season, technically. Why doesn't John Spytek come out and talk to the media, let them ask the questions that need to be asked about direction, about the coaching staff, what's going on with the roster? That has not been able to happen. So to me, that points me in the opposite direction, which is, okay, he doesn't really have as much control as I thought he would. So to your point, who does have control? And if it's Pete Carroll, nobody ever said that was going to be the case. They said they were going to work together when they got introduced together again. And so to me, that is also something that's just it's not good business. I mean, I've had a long corporate career. I've been in business and you have to be able to come out and delineate who's calling what shots, who's in charge so that people understand where they need to go with questions, what they need to do. And that just hasn't happened yet. So we'll see. All right, we're going to do now. I'm going to take one final break, a short break here. When we come back, we're going to get to some viewer drop-ins. That's right. We're going to get to you guys on video, have you come in and talk to us live here on Silver and Black Today, an Odyssey Sports Original Podcast. You're with Murph and Scott. Don't go anywhere. Hey folks, Gully here, and I'm obsessed with Brunt because they finally nailed tough boots that don't sacrifice comfort. Perfect for crushing long days on the job. Choosing work boots used to mean picking between comfort or durability. If they felt good, they didn't last. And if they lasted, they wrecked your feet. Brunt called BS on that and built boots that feel great from day one. No break-in, no sore feet for the real workers out there. Founder Eric Gerard grew up blue collar and launched Brunt after his trade buddies said big brands had stopped listening. Unchanged in 100 years, chasing fashion over function, they pushed him to build for them, naming products after those hardworking guys we grew up with. I'm wearing the Brunt Omen boots right now. These are the most comfortable work boots I've ever owned. Cushy, out of the box, no painful break-in like the others, but they're built tough. Waterproof, safety toe, soft toe, pull-on, lace-up options for any job site. Brunt isn't just about boots. They've got full gear like heavy-duty pants and weather-resistant jackets to keep you protective and productive. They stand behind it all. Wear them to work. Send them back if they're not right. No other brand does that. Brunt was tired of workwear brands cutting corners. You work too hard for your uncomfortable boots that don't hold up, so they better be built good. Insanely comfort, ready for the job site. For listeners now, get $10 off Brunt with the code BOWKNOWS. That's the code BOWKNOWS at bruntworkwear.com, and you're all set after ordering. Tell them Silver and Black Today sent you. Trust me, you won't regret it. All right, somebody needs a boot in the ass over in the Raider organization, right? Coming off our boot ad. Scott Gulbransen, Murf from Raiders Fan Radio, back with you here on the post-game edition of Silver and Black Today. Raiders losing overtime 30-29. So we're back. We're going to do some Raider drop-ins now. Corey bought a pair of Brunt work boots a few months ago. I will never buy anything but Brunts from now on. Corey, thanks, man. I'm sure our sponsors will be glad to hear that. I wear them too, man, and they're unbelievable. So thank you for that. But we're going to get to some viewer drop-ins, Murph. Are you ready for this? We'll get some folks to come in. All right, we're going to lead off with our guy. I was just talking about him, and there he is, Raider Rube. Raider Rube, what's up, buddy?
What up,
hey,
Rube?
guys?
You gonna yell at us again?
I'm going to yell at you. You guys yelled at me, Murph. I know I'm your viewer now because of how angry you got at me yesterday. But no, I'm doing well. I hope you guys are doing well.
George Lopez famously said, "I'm not crying. I'm just frustrated."
I get you. No, it was at least the positive I take out of this game was at least the offense looked better.
Yes.
Not great, not perfect, but it was better. Geno looked better. It's sad that it takes Brock Bowers to make him look better. And if it doesn't have Brock Bowers, he's terrible. Wish there was a middle ground in there somewhere. But at least, there's something to evaluate, more than 30 plays, right? So we can at least have some evaluations. I know you guys have been going on about the rookies not playing enough. There's a lot of season left, so I'm not as worried about it. I'll be very upset with Pete Carroll and John Spytek and whoever if the young guys don't play by the end of the year. But I think there's still plenty of time to get those guys in. So I'm not super stressed about oh, when are we going to see Charles Grant or Rodgers in there? And my thing with the offensive line that I've been thinking about is if you put those guys in, if they're not ready, then do we get a situation where people get hurt? Because it's the offensive line, it needs to be a unit. And if these guys ain't ready, that's only going to hurt Geno's confidence more. And if he doesn't think those guys are ready, but they're in there because, well, we need to see what they do. Just ask Aiden O'Connell what it's like when Thayer Mumford misses a block. And we may not care if Geno gets hurt, but we may care if Ashton Jeanty gets hurt or Brock Bowers again, if Charles Grant or Rodgers miss a block. Yes, we need to see them. Yes, we need to roll them in eventually, some way, somehow. But I haven't been annoyed that they haven't played yet, because you also have to sell to your locker room, hey, we are trying to put the best guy on the field and, trying to do something. Now, yes, it's getting to that point. The playoffs are done, but at least we had something to evaluate. At least Geno, if we give him Brock Bowers, let's hope we can develop a second weapon or a third weapon so that if Bowers does go down again, I was really hoping Trey Tucker would get more targets, because I thought, especially after I saw him make an amazing block on a guy, on a play, I was like, man, we should really be trying to target him more. He's putting an effort in, and maybe that happens if Jacoby gets traded. But that's where I was probably most disappointed, is that we didn't get Tucker more involved in the offense. And yeah, Ashton should have run the ball more. That's the other big disappointing thing too. But
do you think a lot of those touches got not touches, but at least targets got reduced because of Tyler Lockett?
I don't know how many times I didn't look to see. Lockett didn't get that many targets, so I don't think Lockett was the big deal on that. I mean, there was one where he could have won the game for us if Geno didn't get the tip ball, but I don't know if Lockett was the reason for that, because maybe I'm wrong. I didn't, I'm not a film guy. I don't know. I'm just a rube. I don't know these things. I look at it and say,
he had one target.
Okay, so one target. So I think it was just that they didn't go as far downfield as I was hoping. With as many times as they were hitting Bowers underneath and Jeanty underneath, I thought, okay, maybe they're setting something up for some bigger deep plays. And they did towards the end of the game, but I was hoping that happened a little more quickly. So I was hoping that Tucker would get more involved, because he's the guy he and Michael Mayer have been the two guys I've been like, I really want to see these guys break out and say, okay, we've got two more pieces. It's going to be hard to see the rookies, whether they're going to be something this year, especially Thornton, a fourth-round pick. But I thought Tucker and Mayer, can these guys be something? And I think Mayer could. It's still not there yet, but I think if Tucker gets some actual targets, Tucker really could be that number 2 receiver. We still need a number 1, an X receiver of some kind, because I don't know if Thornton's going to be the guy or not. But that's where I'm at. So at least my positivity is this is what I thought the Raiders would look like all year. The defense was going to maybe put up a fight and then get gassed and lose it towards the end. The offense was going to put up more points than last year. We got 4 touchdowns out of our quarterback. That hasn't been a thing for a couple of years. So this is what I thought they'd look like throughout the year, and they'd win a few more games. But.
And targets are going to go down for everybody when Brock Bowers is in the game, right? He's your number 1 guy. He's your number 1 guy.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
that's going to happen. And then, of course, that's why all the talk about Lockett's going to take all these snaps from people. No, I don't think so. Now, did Jack Besh get on the field? No. Did he get a target? No. But again, that has a lot to do with the kind of game they were playing. They were doing that wheel route to Ashton Jeanty. And is Ashton Jeanty better than Jack Besh? Yes. I mean, he just is. He's a better talent. That's nothing against Jack Besh. It just is what it is. So, Raider Rube, man, thank you so much for dropping in again. We'll see you next time.
See you guys later.
See you, Rube.
All right, there's Raider Rube with some good points there. And God forbid he be some positive about something. How can you? No,
well,
Raider Rube's a good dude.
Absolutely. And Scott, you make a good point there too. And I asked the question about Lockett impacting Tucker. I think your point, Bowers impacts everybody else on the field. He's the guy that's going to, and should be. So that's the answer to the question.
Well, and they had 12 personnel a lot. They had Mayer and him in a lot. And then they had 3 tight ends as well in several other plays throughout the first and second half. So you saw it happening. You kind of knew that was going to happen. All right, we're going to go out to, we got Pastor Mike there, but it doesn't look like he's in front of the camera. Let's see if he gets in front of the camera. Oh. There he is. All right, we're going out to Pastor Mike. Pastor Mike.
Hey, Pastor Mike.
What's up?
Are you actually at home? Are you at home or are you behind bars right now?
No, I'm home.
Okay. I'm just glad you're not in the hospital again, brother.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, right. Yeah. No, I'm home. I was in Cabo earlier the week.
That's right.
That was great. Yeah, I was on vacation, came home, and yeah. So I watched as much of the game as I possibly could, but my grandson's first birthday, we were at like Chuck E.
Oh,
Cheese, so I was trying to catch it, as much as I could. But I guess my reaction to the game is I'm not mad. I mean, I
mm,
felt like they played better, and but I still understand why they're not feeding Genty the rock more. I
right.
mean, I thought that he would get it a lot more, and but it is what it is. I'm glad to see Brock back. I mean that was a plus, and I mean, come on, this guy's the best tight end in the game. Period. There's no question about it, right?
Yeah,
At
no
least that's
question.
my opinion.
Oh
So
yeah, no,
yeah,
it's everybody's opinion now because I mean, look at it. The guy misses those games, comes back, and he's dominant. I mean, and it changes the entire. To your point, Pastor Mike, I think, and we said this a little bit earlier in the show, but the point was not that the Raider offense is very good, but it was better than. I mean, how is it? You can't but be better after what they did with the Chiefs, right? 30 plays and that
right.
nastiness. But to me, yeah, you saw, but it shows you what a great player can do, even with a quarterback that's still struggling. Now again, he
Right.
played better too. Geno played better. Did he play good enough to win the game? No, because we would have seen him do that at the
Right.
end if that was the case.
Well, yeah, he was throwing hospital balls at Jacoby Myers. I'm like, oh my gosh, he's going to get this guy killed. It's like, what's the deal, man? I mean, oh man, that
He
was,
doesn't
yeah,
want him. He doesn't
I
want him
was
traded.
concerned.
You
Yeah,
know, my
I guess not, right?
my favorite part of the Brock Bowers thing too, before we get too far away from it, is that how about in the red zone? Well, how much better did Geno do look on that play when he's got Brock Bowers running absolutely freaking wide open the back of the end zone? And this is another thing that's so puzzling about this Raiders team. We heard last year in the offseason, leading into and through training camp, that Brock Bowers was unguardable in the end zone. And we never threw to him in the red zone. So at least I'm so thankful now that we're throwing to him in the red zone.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
And I don't get what Chip's doing, I mean, last year at Ohio State, man, he ran the ball a whole lot. And I mean, part of it is the offensive line. I mean, really, we know that's definitely an issue there. But I would have been really pissed if they would have went for the tie today. So I was glad for two. I'm like yelling at my phone. I'm like, Pete, you better go for two, man. It's like, we ain't going for no tie. I mean,
Yeah.
so that made me feel a little bit better. Yeah. So, I mean, we're obviously a work in progress. I never thought that they'd be world beaters this year by any means. I just thought that they would be a little bit better than they were last year. And I mean, I had them winning possibly 10 games. I mean, but I bleed silver and black. Me and Murf are alike. It's like, yeah, of course we're going to win 10 games, right? And so I want them to win. But then, part of it too is, I mean, I want a good high draft pick. So at this point right now, the season's over, but I want to see them with fight. It's kind of like Dan Campbell's first year in Detroit. Just fight, at least play hard,
Right.
So, and I think we saw that today. Coming up on Thursday when they play the Broncos, hey, here we go. So, and I want them to win that game for sure. So,
Yeah. Big Thursday night game coming up, and people arguing with me in the chat that the Broncos aren't very good on offense, and I'm like, I don't know if you've watched them. Top 9 in touchdowns scored. They're pretty good. So the Raiders are going to have to shore up the defense a little bit. Pastor Mike, I'm sure we'll hear from you this week on the show. Thanks so much for dropping in again, my friend.
all right, man. You guys have a good one.
You too,
All right,
Pastor. Good to see you.
There you go. There's Pastor Mike behind bars.
He's the best, by the way.
He's awesome. He gets that name too because he does prison ministry, which is amazing work. So God bless him for that incredible stuff. All right, now we're going out to Raider Chapin, right? Am I saying that right, man? Chapin or Chapin? Which one you got?
Chapin. Yeah, Chapin.
Chapin. Ah, okay, good. There we go. What's up, man? What do you got tonight?
Well, just disappointed that we lost, but I guess it's just part of the process. The thing that I wanted to ask you guys I've been talking with other Raider fans about firing Pete Carroll and all that, and I say that regardless of what we think of his decision making and all that, we can't do it because right now we're in. I believe that we're in like a tricky spot where we need to show the league that we're giving coaches fair chances, because I lived through the last days of Al Davis, and I remember how it was back then, that everyone knew that they were going to get a decent shot, because I still remember stories of the telephone being the sideline that Al Davis would call, and this is the play we're going to run. So, and I know that people think, well, there's only 32 teams in the league, so everyone's going to want this job. But you also have to understand that these people are thinking about their careers, and they know that if they lose or they don't do well in one of these organizations, it's going to be like 10 years before they get another shot.
Yeah.
So if they already think, well, Mark Davis is trigger happy and he's going to fire me after 1 year of not fixing this team, then I just won't go there. So
yeah.
Like I said, as much as it hurts, I think that right now we need to have patience, show the league that I hope that Pete Carroll can turn it around. But even if he doesn't, we can at least show the league, hey, look, we're this organization is going to give you a fair shot. We're going to work towards improving the team and making an attractive spot for people to come here. So
I think that's an incredibly important point. And I think that those of us that have been calling for the maybe retirement of Pete Carroll in the offseason, I think it is very, very much needs to be considered, that idea. I think that the thing that could make it different and the thing that could be an attractive position for a younger offensive-minded head coach to come to the Raiders is know that they would really have a genuine commitment from the team, is if the team made a genuine commitment towards a youth movement. And I'm talking especially at quarterback. And when you look at these guys, these younger head coaches that do make these moves and they do take over these jobs, they've got these high-level prospect quarterbacks. The Raiders have never had that. And the one time that Mark Davis made any kind of, well, twice he made a commitment to a head coach. One was Jack Del Rio, but then more importantly, the 10-year contract that he gave to John Gruden. Yeah. Like, I think that demonstrates absolutely that his ability to commit to a head coach. And we had Derek Carr in the building at the time, and they were convinced that he was going to be the starting quarterback and the franchise quarterback for the team for the next 10 years. So they were married at the hip, Gruden and Carr were. So the Raiders have done that in recent past. Since then, we've had Band-Aid quarterbacks, Band-Aid coaches. It's been nothing but Band-Aids all the way through. So I think that if with a true fresh start and a commitment to a youth movement, I think that would be an attractive thing for a head coach. That's just my opinion, but
no, and I agree. And I also think that it's been a little unfair to Mark, because every decision that he has made, well, if it were up to him, we'd still have John Gruden in year 7. Or 8. I think it would be year 7 of Gruden right now. And ever since he had to let him go, it's been a string of bad luck. That when the thing that I don't like about like major media and all that is that they don't put things in context. So it's like when they hired McDonough, he was like the golden child of the NFL, and everyone was saying that this is going to be when the Raiders turn around and all that. It didn't work out. Oh, Mark Davis is an idiot.
Yeah. Well, and I think Raider Champion, I think that's partly because there have been bad decisions, but you're right about the John Gruden thing. If it wasn't for the emails leaked apparently from the NFL itself on that stuff, not defending necessarily what John Gruden said in his emails, but the fact that all happened was not the Raiders firing a coach. It was them having to fire a coach because of the league pressure. We all know that now.
And even McDonough, he's like, all right, he was going to give him one more year, but when he saw that the locker room was like, oh no, this is not going to work.
No, he was destroying the locker room.
And everyone was like, yeah, AP is the answer and all that, and it didn't work. So everything has been like a little bit of a lot of bad luck. But when you see the narrative is like, oh, Mark Davis is trigger friendly and he can't, he doesn't have patience for a coach. So right now we're almost in damage control mode. We're going to have to stomach whatever Pete Carroll brings to the table, and I hope that he turns it around. But even if he doesn't, it's like, all right, no, dude, we have to do this, and we're going to have to like have patience and show the league that we do have our stuff together.
Right. You want the job to be as appealing as possible. Raider Chapin, man, thanks for dropping in. We appreciate you stopping by.
Thank you, guys.
Good to see you, brother.
There you go. And you talked about this on your show a lot, as we have too, about the stability issue. And he brings up some good points there. And it gets to the point, though, again, just for different reasons, obviously, than with Josh McDaniels. But if this season, because we know how the season's going to kind of go, if at any time Pete Carroll is disjointed enough from the locker room, then it becomes more of a necessity than anything else. But we'll see. I don't know that we're there yet. I haven't seen signs of that yet, but we'll see if it happens as well. All right, get to one more here. Murph, you ready?
Yeah,
It's
heck
our
yeah.
buddy Misha out in Orange County.
Hey,
What's going on, man?
What's happening, fellas?
What's up, Misha?
Oh,
Good to see you as always. I feel like this particular game, it's you can either take it two ways. It's either you're happy that we did compete and you saw a lot
hey,
of.
Misha, your audio's breaking up on us, man. I don't know if it's it might be it might be just the connection overall. Do me a favor. I'm gonna disconnect you. Come back in, and we'll try it again. All right. So there's Misha, who's having some trouble with the audios, as we call it. But Murph, yeah, I mean, listen, the people who want to be negative about everything. Look, I understand that people are frustrated. You're frustrated. You share it here every week. But I did think that Rube brought up a good point there, which was there's Misha. Misha, let me hear you now, buddy.
We good now?
Oh, now we're good. Now we can hear you. You're not sounding like a robot. Oh, wait. I
Yeah.
spoke too soon. Uh-oh.
Oh, well, we're back to
Like-
robot.
Oh, now
You-
oh, wait. You there?
I think
no,
you turned the lights out.
Something happened. Well, those California brownouts. Remember those?
Yes, I do actually. Yes.
So there you go. But anyway, Misha, sorry, man. We'll try to get you on next time. But Murph, look, I think that's where the thing. Listen, I don't like watching crappy football, right? I don't care who's playing. None. I mean, and now the Raiders, I cover the Raiders, so I have to watch them. You're a fan, so you have to watch them, at least to some people. Some people want to boycott the team now and all this kind of stuff, right? So we both have our obligations, and nobody wants to watch crappy football. So I understand it. And would it be better? I would love to get on here and talk about wins. Like those are more fun. You can break down things. You can talk about great performance. You can talk about this, talk about that. But when it doesn't happen, it gets hard. So when it does happen, I'm not going to come on here. There's too much negativity in the world. There's a lot of different content creators, Murph, you know them, who go on and all they do is bitch about stuff. That's fine. That's their audience. I got no problem with it. It's not something I want to be involved with.
Yeah, it's tough because we've talked about this recently on Raiders Fan Radio. Like the three of us, Michelle and Jeff and I, are inherently positive people. Like I look at everything in life, I tend to look at the brighter side of it, especially, in real life, outside of the Raiders and this thing that we do here, when we get on the internet and we talk about our favorite football team. I look at everything in a positive way and look for the things to lock onto that are good and the things that are gracious and the things that are kind. And those are the things that I gravitate towards in life. And that's also one of the dichotomies of being a Raider fan is that, yeah, when we get into here, we do get on these mics and we do talk about our team. It's tough for me to find those things and to lock onto them when year in, year out, it's these bad performances by the Raiders. And, I went through and talked about on our show, just detailing about, for a guy like me, I'm 52 years old. Okay. I've been a fan of this football team since I knew they existed. I literally was at the Oakland Coliseum in utero when my mom went to the World Series in 1972 when she was pregnant with me. Okay. I grew up, this was my life. And this still outside of the few labels that I will wear, like Christ follower, husband, dad, best friend, nephew, those things that I wear proudly. Raider fan is right there with them. So it is part of my being. It is part of my soul to watch this Raider team. And for as long as I have, and for as long as I've watched this team, when you go from the last time we won the Super Bowl, January 22nd, 1984, we had a pretty decent run in the 90s. Shout out Jeff Hostetler and Art Shell 1.0. We had a really good run with John Gruden 1.0. And then what have we had since then? We've had 2016 and 2021. It's been 40 freaking years. This team was what the building blocks, the foundation was for the Raider mystique. It's been that long since the Raiders of the 70s and the Raiders of the 80s, since Marcus Allen running with the Knight, since Kenny King becoming a Super Bowl hero, since Fred Biletnikoff and Kenny Stabler and Old Man Willie, it's been so long, y'all. Like, so it's hard to go into these things and to latch onto the quote positive when we've been looking of 40 years for the better part of futility. And that's sad. It's such a sad state because that's not who we are as people. That's not what my fandom was formed on greatness. My fandom was formed on 5 straight AFC championship games. My fandom was formed on 3 Super Bowl titles. My fandom was formed on ending the Miami Dolphins winning streak when they were the only undefeated team ever in the history of the NFL. That's what my fandom is formed on. So many of these younger fans, your fandom is formed on 2 playoff appearances. Congratulations. But that's why it's not necessarily a negativity. It's that I'm not going to lower my standard as a fan. And that was told to me by the great Wayne Mabry, the Violator. He told me it doesn't matter how long it's been. You never lower the standard for that shield. So that's where I'm coming from. I'm not lowering the standard. A playoff appearance is not good enough. No, make the playoffs, make a run, and then do it again. And then do it again. That's what we want to see out of this Raider team. So I'll stop being negative when the Raiders start performing and looking like the Raiders again. The Raiders that were what actually formed my fandom. Once we return to that one of these godforsaken days, that's when I'll stop looking at this thing with a quote negative tone. It's not a negative tone. It's an expectation of greatness. And we haven't had that in forever.
Well, and Murph, well said. And I think you speak that as a fan, right? But as someone who looks at the team objectively, a lot of times people will say the same thing about me. Oh, you're being negative. You're being negative. You're being negative. No, it's being objective. You tell it like it is. Now, tonight, I thought there were some positive things. So I talked about the positive things and I talked about the things that weren't so positive. So that's the way it all rolls down. But Murph, we're coming up on the end of the show here. I want everybody to tell, we had a couple super chats, and all the donations that come through the super chats go right to the One Nation Foundation. And I want to tell everybody about that today. I want to give a shout out to LS out in Australia who donated $5. I'm going to flash it up here really quick so you can see that. Good organizations give their GM the driver's seat. Spytech isn't even in the car. We left him at the gas station 10 miles back. Well put there, and thank you for your donation. But tell them where this money's going, Murph.
Thank you all so very, very much. All your super chats here at Silver and Black today, and anything that you contribute over at Raiders Fan Radio, 100% of that money goes to our nonprofit, which is the One Nation Foundation, where we're giving our money away to the good folks at right here behind me at the Biletnikoff Foundation, and also the good folks at Raider Dad. Raider Dad's taking underprivileged kids to Raider games that would normally not ever have that experience. And excuse me. And the Biletnikoffs are taking they're taking in young women at risk of domestic violence and substance abuse and giving them a safe place to stay, giving them rehabilitative services, and they're out there literally doing the Lord's work. And so we appreciate them so very, very much and gladly donate 100% of the money that we raise, whether it be through direct donations or advertising. All that money goes to the One Nation Foundation. And thank you, Scott, as always, for the platform. Thank you for the generosity of Raider Nation. And even if you can't contribute monetarily, just hit a like, hit a subscribe. Here at Silver and Black today, you know, if you can rate it, if you can share it, please do that, because that all contributes to advertising, and that advertising dollars goes to the One Nation Foundation. So here, Raiders Fan Radio, anywhere you can help promote it. It's not about growing our quote brand, growing our show. We just want to raise as much money as possible so we can give to these amazing Raiders charities. So thank you.
Yes, you talked about one of those Raiders charities too, Raider Dad. I want to shout out to one of our listeners, Raider Loke, who donated his tickets today.
Oh, nice.
Today's game to a family, to Josh, obviously at Raiders Dad. So shout out to him too. And so many people do that. It's so great. And then of course, the donations that come in and go to you guys, and everything you do with that is phenomenal. My man, I will see you Thursday night. You ready for a late Thursday night?
Heck yeah, let's do it, bro.
The Broncos are coming up. My man, take care of yourself. We'll see you guys on Raiders Fan Radio Wednesday. Make sure you watch the show on Wednesday. Worth your time if you're already there. I know we get a lot of fans that come in through your site as we simulcast this over on Raiders Fan Radio as well. Make sure you go see Murph, Jeff, and Michelle if you haven't done it already. All right, buddy. We'll talk to you on Thursday.
All right, let's go kick the donkey's ass. Let's go, Raiders.
All right, there's Murf for Raiders Fan Radio. Want to thank you guys all for being with us tonight on the postgame show. Yes, another Raider loss, but some glimmers of hope. Brock Bowers, obviously a huge one, and some other things too. Some better play. Wasn't enough to win in overtime, but we will be back for another show on Tuesday. Of course, the trade deadline coming up on Tuesday. So we're going to do a show pre-trade deadline. We'll talk a little bit more about the game that was today, as well as anything we're hearing about the trade deadline. And then we'll be back on Thursday with another show before the game, right? You're going to get 3 shows in 3 days. And then we'll do our post-game show after the game again with Murf and I on Thursday night after the Broncos game. So stay with us there. If you don't already subscribe to the podcast, please do so wherever you get your audio. If you're watching us on video, whichever channel you're watching us on, make sure you subscribe, hit the thumbs up, and also hit that notifications bell so you know when we go live or have a new video. For Murf, for our producer, Mike Robier at Odyssey, for everybody here at Silver and Black today, including me, thanks for being with us. We will talk to you guys on Tuesday morning. Take care now.